Hey y'all, welcome. I'm Mikey. Come on in, take a seat, get comfortable, take off your shoes. We're going to chill for a little bit. So, in a previous episode, I touched on how I believe that the generation before me dropped the ball, and I believe my generation's doing the same. I'd like to expound on that for a little bit, if you just give me a moment. I pose a two-part question to you. What is the disconnect between the older women and the younger women? Why has it gotten to the point where neither is willing to listen to the other? It used to be that we had respect for our elders and we looked to them for advice, knowledge, and wisdom. But now it seems that the lines are blurry and respect is missing from both parties. Some older women are so disrespectful to the younger generation. Could that be why they don't want to hear from us? Or have we lived so poorly in front of them that there was no respect to begin with? Like I said, the generation before me dropped the ball. Now, granted, a lot of them were dibbling and dabbling with drugs, either doing them or selling them. Whatever they were doing, they weren't present for their children like they could have been. I was one of those 80s babies that the crack epidemic affected. My parents got divorced in 86 and my mother turned to drugs. My father came to get me to raise me as a single parent, and I saw my mother when my father located her. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my mother to death now, but it took a lot of shadow work and healing to get to that point. It took me becoming a mother, an adult, and understanding drug problems to be able to forgive her. I say all of this to say, yes, it was her choice to pick the drugs up, but I'm so sure if most of the people knew how it would ruin their lives and those of the people they loved, they would have never picked them up in the first place. A lot of us from that era have similar stories, and I'm sure at least one person can relate to mine. Growing up around those types of people and things who do those types of things, they expose you to some things that children probably should not be exposed to. Needless to say, I saw a lot of things growing up visiting my mother in impoverished areas. I believe poverty is a state of mind and not a situation. You can give someone with an impoverished mind all the things they need, but if you don't change their mentality, then it's just useless. I've lived on both sides of the tracks and I have seen a significant difference in the mentality and the mindset of those around me. I even realized that the curriculum differed depending on your zip code. Children live what they learn, so what are we teaching them? We need to lead by example instead of saying, do as I say, not as I do. Newsflash, they're going to do exactly what you do. Little girls see the women around them having multiple children at a young age and they think it's okay. A lot of negative behaviors are reinforced due to the mentality of the adults rearing the children. This is why I'm so adamant about us women as the first teachers changing our mentality, and that's where it starts. I've been around some children who know every word to every song on the radio, but they can't even spell their name correctly or put together a full sentence. I've seen some little girls that know how to gyrate better than some grown women. And the little boys emulating the men around them that gangbang and hustle in the streets. Need I go on? What example are we or have we been setting for our children? As somewhat of an elder, I do have a grown child and two teenagers and a younger one. I can understand how there could be a disconnect between the generations. I remember when I was in my early to mid 20s, a lot of the women that were my elders weren't so nice to me. They also didn't feel like they could learn anything from me because I haven't lived enough yet. And I'm doing air quotes. But how did they know how much I've lived or what experiences I've had? When did they become so rigid to feel like they can't learn anything from someone younger than them? So, as I said before, we learned from those before us, and I see the cycle repeating with my generation and the new generation. Now, I look at some of the things that the new generation do and say, and it is questionable to say the least. But I am not that oblivious to forget that I was once the younger generation and some elders felt the same way about me. I think as an elder, we should embrace the younger generation with understanding instead of judgment. Yes, they think differently, have different morals, values, and the whole temperature is different. But one thing that will never change is that they are our future. We can't just sit back and watch them go in the wrong direction and say nothing. Then this goes back to one of my aforementioned questions. Have we just lived so poorly in front of them that the respect was never there? When we started normalizing teen pregnancy and having children at an early age, it messed up the natural order of things. especially with this new modern woman mentality a lot of my sisters possess. We have numerous toxic mother-daughter relationships in our community due to them being in competition. Let me explain. When women are having their children, little girls especially, at 14, 15, 16, 17, when they grow up, when the little girl grows up and she's about 21, 22, 23, her mother's only in her mid to late 30s. So now she's looking at a younger, better version of herself, and they're on the dating market competing for the same men. And we all know that to men, our worth is in our youth and our beauty and fertility. A lot of mothers who didn't make the right choices in their life don't want better for their daughter and try to sabotage any chance she has at being better. There are so many different scenarios, but I'm sure you get the gist of it. So do you think this constant rivalry, competition, and lack of sufficient nurturing from the first woman in her life would have an effect on how she deals with women who are her elder moving forward? I ask this to bring up the point that as melanated women, we don't seem to like each other too much. I swear I can't walk down the street and smile at one of my sisters without getting a look from her like I slept with her man or something. Now, in my 20s, I used to give her the same energy and nasty look and hope and wish and pray she'd say something so things could escalate. Yeah, I know I was toxic, but I'm just being honest. But after beginning healing, I started to feel differently. I think the difference was I was finally starting to love myself. Don't get it twisted. I didn't even know I wasn't loving myself. If you had to let me tell it, I love me if don't nobody else love me. Wrong. I didn't even realize that I wasn't loving myself until I started loving up on others. I would see a sister on the street and she would give me that same dirty look, and I would give her the biggest smile and tell her, "Smile, beautiful, it can't be that bad," or something along those lines. But I would see their energy slowly start to change and the interaction would turn positive. Once I started loving me, I started loving my sisters, seeing them as a reflection of me. When I didn't love me, how could I possibly love you? Just a thought. As I mentioned before, I want to be one of the ones that pick up the ball. I want to lead by example and not just talk about it, but be about it. I don't know about you, but you can't give me some advice and you're in a glass house throwing boulders, meaning your ish ain't straight, but you're critiquing mine. Clean your front porch off before you concern yourself with mine. So when I say things I say, I'm usually speaking from experience. I've seen both sides. I've been that toxic, broken, angry woman, and I am now the woman who is on the spiritual journey to healing and being balanced. It wasn't easy and I didn't have much help, but I was determined to not repeat the vicious cycle I found myself caught up in by default. It is really easy to get caught up in the rapture of the BS just being around it. Even when you tell yourself, "I'm never going to be like them," guess what? Little subconscious seeds are being planted, and the next thing you know, you hanging around the barbershop and you get a haircut. That's why you should choose to begin your journey to healing. You need to surround yourself with people who are conducive to your growth. You can't continue to allow those same toxic people to occupy your space. They will only bring negativity where you are trying to create positivity. You'll be trying to be better and they will be comfortable with being stagnant. When you are ascending to a new level, you can't bring people with you who don't belong there. So you're going to have to let go of old people, places, and things to make the changes you hope to make. Once you do that, you'll begin to attract the right kind of people that are more beneficial to your new journey. Habits aren't always easy to break, but the beautiful thing is that they are breakable. They say it takes 21 days to form or break a habit. So just start small and give yourself a goal or a habit to break or attain a day. Make sure that you work towards achieving that goal by writing it down. It always helps to see it instead of just saying it. Brainstorm and figure out if that goal is actually achievable. Is this goal worth attaining? Are you willing to put in the work? And if it's hard, are you willing to put in the hard work that's necessary to achieve this goal? Next, write down the steps, kind of like a checklist that it'll take to achieve that goal. Follow the steps and check them off as you go. Once you become comfortable, add more goals. For a habit, just remember the first 3 to 5 days are always the hardest to form or break a habit. After you've passed that point, it seems to get a little easier day by day. And by day 21 and beyond, it becomes like a second nature. Just a few little tips, not too in-depth, but a beginning point. I'm not here to judge anyone's past or present, or to just talk about the issues but not offer any real solutions. Or to act like I'm perfect and I have it all together, because I don't. I'm definitely a work in progress, but I am milestones ahead of where I used to be. I look back and you couldn't pay me to go back there. I finally found inner peace and it's priceless, and I will protect it by any means necessary. Why? Because I spent too many years without it. Too many years yearning for it and chasing it, even though I didn't know what it looked like. I exerted too much energy doing the wrong things. All I knew is that something was missing and the life I was living could not be it. There was no way that life was supposed to be like this. So I did something to change it. My daddy always used to say that even a dog gets tired of sitting on a rusty nail, and when he does, he gets his ass up. So many things in my life changed when I started changing. And I'm so passionate to help other melanated women who want to make those changes as well. So I challenge you to take that first step towards change and being a better version of yourself. Join me in this journey. So today's herb of the day is eyebright. It's an herb scientifically known as Euphrasia officinalis. It's a small, unassuming plant with white or yellow blossoms, and it's native to Europe. The name eyebright comes from its traditional use as a remedy for eye infections and eye irritation. Now, this herb comes with tannins and flavonoids that provide anti-inflammatory and astringent effects. Eyebright possesses antibacterial and antiviral properties, making it useful in fighting off infections. Eyebright is an excellent remedy for reducing inflammation, especially in the eyes. It relieves irritation, redness, and swelling around the eyes. A simple eye wash can be made from eyebright, and it's a great remedy for tired, overworked eyes. Here's the recipe for the eyebright eye wash. Now, the ingredients you'll need is 1 tablespoon of dried eyebright and 1 cup of boiled water. Now, you place the dried eyebright in a heat-proof container, pour the boiled water over the dried herb, and let it steep in the boiled water for around 10 to 15 minutes. Strain the mixture using a fine mesh sieve or a cheesecloth, allowing the mixture to cool down to a comfortable temperature, and then use a dropper or eye cup to administer the eye wash. Now, another way to use eyebright is as a compress. A warm compress helps soothe and relieve irritation, especially for sinus headaches and colds. Now, here's a recipe for the eyebright compress. Now, for this, the ingredients you'll need is 1 tablespoon of dried eyebright, 1 cup of boiling water, and a clean cloth. So what you'll do is you'll pour the boiled water over the dried eyebright in a heat-proof container, let it steep, let the boiled water steep for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then place the clean cloth in the pot with the herb infusion. And then once you wring the cloth out, place it gently over the affected area. So apart from eye irritation, eyebright's antihistamine properties also make it a helpful remedy for allergies such as hay fever. So here's a recipe for eyebright tea. So you take the 1 teaspoon of dried eyebright and 1 cup of boiled water. You place the dried eyebright in the heat-proof cup, pour the boiled water over the dried eyebright, and you let it steep for about 10 to 15 minutes. Strain the tea using a fine mesh or a sieve, or a cheesecloth, and then you drink the tea 3 times a day to reduce allergen sensitivity. Now, you can sweeten it with, I don't really like to use sugar, but you can sweeten it with some honey, some agave, to taste. So in conclusion, eyebright is a fascinating herb that can be used in various remedies. It's always essential to consult a healthcare professional before trying any new remedy, especially if on any medications or have any known allergies. So remember, the first step to change is realizing that a change is necessary. I challenge you all to do a little self-reflection and figure out if it's time for a change. Thank you so much for joining me. I've enjoyed our time together so much, and I appreciate your presence, and I so hope you'll grace me with it again soon. Bye.